What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you my Trickstar Sky Striker deck profile that I piloted at YCS Chicago. Now, I managed to almost make the top 32 with this deck. I lost out in round 11 with a feature match. If you want to see how I punted that game away, be my guest. But this deck was really cool. It was a lot of fun. I worked on it with Dennis, or P-Bunny as you guys might know him. And the reason I went with this deck is because with Sky Striker and Altergeist looking to be the two strongest decks going into this event, Trickstar is a pretty good matchup against those. So I figured since we already have that, we can kind of build the deck for Thunder Dragons and kind of have a really cool adaptation of Trickstar Sky Striker that actually seemed to perform pretty well. And before I get into it, I actually forgot my deck at one of the tables during one of the rounds, and one of you kind-hearted Samaritans was nice enough to give it to the Lost and Found. So whoever did that, thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I didn't even realize it until they called me up to the judges table. And if you can identify who you were, because I think I knew who it was, send me a message. I actually want to send you a thank you gift for returning this deck. I know there's good people out in our community, and that just goes to show. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. So we're gonna go ahead, as always, start off with the main deck. Pretty much 3 copies of Candina. This really needs no explanation. It's pretty much the best starter. If you see any way to get to Candina, your deck's going to do what it does best. Only play 2 copies of Licorice. So basically, Licorice is like a brick, and so you don't really want to draw it, but it's like if you have it in conjunction with a Candina, it's nice because you don't have to search it. So I think that's pretty okay. 1 copy of Lilybell because it's just pretty amazing for OTKs, and just being able to attack directly and recur resources from the grave is very nice. And the one new addition is 1 Trickstar Korribane. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with this card, because Korribane can sometimes be the worst card ever, but it can also be the best card ever. So for those of you who don't know, basically, if you control no monsters, or all the monsters you control are Trickstars, you can special summon onto the field, and then its other effect is, basically, you can double the original attack of any of your Trickstar cards. Now, you can only use one of these effects once per turn, which is a little bit unfortunate, but the thing is, what this allows the deck to do is that it allows you to, like, make a Link 2 play with just a Candina without having to waste your Lilybell, but it also allows the deck to beat over big monsters, which it previously had difficulty doing. I found that 1 is just enough, because basically, if you need to make a Link 2 play, or if you need to push for a lot of damage, you can just search the Korribane with the Candina, or you can recur it with Lilybell or Light Sage or whatever, and then you can kind of just access it that way. But again, kind of like Licorice, this card's kind of a brick because it doesn't really do anything on its own, but having 2000 attack is pretty nice. Now, I do want to say the reason I went with this deck is because I was thinking that Striker and Altergeist were going to be the 2 biggest decks at this event, with Thunder Dragon falling in a very close third. So having Trickstar have pretty decent Altergeist and Sky Striker matchups, and then basically we just figured we could build this for Thunder, so that way we just have all the cards, since that is easily the worst matchup, we have as many cards as possible for that matchup to make it a little bit easier, so that we can pretty much beat out all the Strikers and Altergeists. But it didn't work out that way, and I'll tell you why when we get to the end of the video, when I get to my matchups. Now, we're gonna go ahead and get to the spice of this deck. So for you guys who read the feature match, you already know this. I played 3 copies of Destrudo, the Lost Dragon's Fission, and 1 copy of Mare. So the theory behind this is that Trickstar has a very, very low ceiling. Like, the thing is, when it comes to Trickstar, sometimes, like, if your Candina gets ashed or something like that, you really just don't have much of a follow-up play, and you can't really do a whole lot beyond that. And aside from that, you kind of have to rely on your extra deck for cards that actually do things. The Trickstar cards are good at generating advantage, and the Sky Striker cards as well, but they don't exactly, like, break your opponent's boards. Destrudo solves this problem entirely, not to mention, in tandem with Mare, you're able to make stuff like Yazi and then go into Mare, and then ultimately get into something like Brionac to be able to just blow away an entire board of triple Colossus, which this deck would typically struggle to do. You have to use like multiple mind controls, or just like so many resources, where 1 copy of Brionac could just blow everything away, and it's amazing. Alternatively though, if you're not going up against Thunder, if you resolve this, you're just gonna go immediately into a Borosword Dragon, and most likely kill them, because Candina could search like a reincarnation, you can make like a Phoenix or a Cerberus, discard the reincarnation, then bring back the Candina, and that's gonna be over 8,000 damage. So yeah, it's just the plays with Destrudo and Mare are endless. Worst case scenario, Destrudo just acts as an extra Link fodder, which sometimes comes in handy if you just need to have 1 extra card to be able to make your Link 3 or Link 4 plays. You can also do something like make a Trisbania with a card to proc it to just nuke Altergeist and Sky Striker, or any other back row heavy deck's entire back row. So that's pretty neat. The amount of versatility, and I guess the fact that this raises the ceiling feeling of the deck is incredible. And big shout outs to Alex Buell's friend Georgie for pretty much kind of bringing me onto this idea, because without it, I don't think I would have seen the success that I nearly did at this event. Definitely try it out. It's pretty cool. Now, wrapping up the hand traps, or I guess the monsters rather, just 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. The other reason why I wanted to play Trickstar is that I had this innate fear that because people weren't playing a lot of hand traps, people were going to want to play combo decks. And surprise, there were a lot of combo decks at this event. And I feel like Trickstar is the only deck that can natively play Droll and Lockbird, and it's like acceptable because you have Droll Reincarnation, so it kind of just makes sense. So I felt pretty safe, and honestly, going up against the combo decks, I played a Gem Knight FTK, I played several Danger Thunder decks, which Droll is like the only hand trap that really stops that deck at all. So I actually ended up playing the Drolls, and I was pretty happy with it. If you notice, I'm not main decking Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring because I felt that Ash, especially against the main 3 decks, Striker, Geist, and Thunder, is actually rather weak. It doesn't really stop the Danger Thunder deck at all. It barely does anything against Geist, and against Striker, it's like, okay, but like it wasn't really that incredible, so I decided to relegate it to the side deck. That's it for the monsters though. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the spells, starting off with 3 copies of Trickstar Light Stage. We have to max off on our starter cards as much as we can, so to complement that, 2 copies of Terraforming. Shouldn't be no surprise, you should not be playing any less than this. Next up, we have 3 copies of Sky Striker Mobilize Engage, getting into the Sky Striker package, 3 copies of Widow Anchor, and 1 copy of Hornet Drones. These cards are incredible. They just allow the deck to generate so much more advantage, and the Widow Anchors especially just allow you to go for so much damage, but then in tandem with that, they also allow you to make your bigger link plays like your Borrelsword Dragon and basically get big threats like Colossus and stuff off the field. We had to make sure in this deck that we had so many negations to be able to prevent Colossus because our deck searches so much, because 1 Colossus can ultimately just shut down our deck entirely. So having them be searchable and getting the extra draws off Engage, and being Hornet Drone just being the amazing one of that it is, this was a perfect package. I wouldn't have had it any other way. Next up, we have 3 mismatched copies of Mind Control. People with OCD are going to hate me for this one. I couldn't find any ones that matched, so we just went with all mismatched. Again, we need to have outs to Colossus, and honestly, against your Sky Striker matchup, it's good. You can take their Ray, and since we're already playing the Sky Strikers, you can just, or excuse me, like their Shizuka or the Kagari, and just overlay into one of your own, and that way the Ray doesn't trigger, so that's pretty good. And against other matchups, even Rogue especially, just being able to have that extra card for a link play can be essential. 1 copy of Scapegoat. This card should be banned. I'm just flat out, I literally won an entire Danger Thunder match because of Scapegoat, like, and no other card in my deck. Like, this card just deserves to be banned. It is way too powerful, and that's kind of the inspiration too for the Destrudo Mare package, because the thing is, if you think about it, when you go into Mare, it's kind of like resolving a Scapegoat on your own turn that you can proactively use rather than having to set reactively and wait for your following turn. So Scapegoat's always been good in Trickstar, so that was kind of the mentality for why I wanted to play this engine, and honestly, that's the reason why I did as well in this tournament as I did, like, just without a doubt. And lastly, wrapping things up, 2 copies of Potted Desires. We had 3 initially, but I feel like if we play 3 Desires, we have to play 3 Licorice, because it's like 2, you can't banish all your Licorice, like, it's really, really bad if you do. So we actually at some point cut down on the Desires as well as the Licorice. 2 was fine. I didn't really miss a 3rd. I saw Desires just frequently enough that it was fine, and I wanted to keep the deck at 40 cards, so Desires ended up being one of the cuts. Also, I did not want to banish Mare, but I still needed the extra draw power that works under Colossus, so I think I only banished Mare once the entire tournament, and I think I only had it in my hand once as well. So ultimately, that was pretty good. That definitely got in a lot of work. Moving on to the traps though, 3 copies of Trickstar Reincarnation. This is Monster Reborn that is not once per turn, and especially with the Nightmares, especially with Destrudo, just being able to combo off because you can just make offensive link plays and then just pitch Reincarnation to resurrect your cards for Borrelsword. Like, this card, just, you have to play 3 of this in this deck. I never opened like multiples that it was like bad. It was perfect. You have to play 3 of this card because you always want to see it. Also with Droll and Lockbird, if you get the combo, it's nice nice. I only drove reincarnation one person, one game, so it's not like I relied on that combo whatsoever, but it did come up once. 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Again, we need more outs to Colossus, and just, it's a hand trap in itself, so it's fine. It also turns off Floodgates, which can be rather annoying, so it's just a nice all-around versatile card that I was very happy to be playing. And then for the last 2 cards, we main decked 2 copies of Evenly Matched. We were main decking 3 copies, but the thing is, it kind of conflicts in a way because we need to have, you know, a nice balance of going first and going second cards, and Evenly Matched honestly just wins you the game for no reason if you happen to lose the die roll and open it. There were so many instances where my opponent was just shocked that I was main decking this, but honestly, if you can simplify the game state, Trickstar can easily take over with the amount of advantage that you can just solely generate off of a single card, and then you're just going to take the game from there. It doesn't matter that you miss out on the battle phase, but the reason it also conflicts as well is because if you draw like the Destrudo combo, you want to kill them that turn, and Evenly Matched, you can't use your battle phase, so we kind of cut back on the Evenly Matched down from 3 to 2, and I was perfectly happy with it. We sided the third one, and if we needed it when we knew we were going second, especially against specific matchups, we would just side it in. So that's it, 40 cards. Moving on to the extra deck. So the extra deck starts off with 1 copy of Yazi, Evil of the Yang Zing, and 1 copy of Brionac, Dragon of the Ice Bear. These were just the MVPs of the weekend. No one was expecting the Destrudo to come down, and when it did, it was basically just game over almost every single time. It was just fantastic. We have 2 copies of Sky Striker Ace Kagari, 1 copy of Shizuku, and 1 copy of Hayate. You don't need more than this. This is the perfect ratio. You're going to go through like Kagari Shizuku turn 1, and then most likely Kagari Hayate on the following turn, and then you'll probably kill them by then, so you don't really need anything else. 1 copy of Link Kuribo and 1 copy of Link Spider. This is for your scapegoats as well as your Mare as well, because you need to have the extra names to be able to link up into higher Link monsters. Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Cerberus, and Nightmare Unicorn for our Nightmare package. I used all 3 of these very religiously, and honestly, being able to pitch reincarnation off of one of these to resurrect a Trickstar to link up into the next one is just utterly insane. It's just so free. It's just incredible. Then we have 1 copy of Topologic Trisbania. I didn't make this too much, but it did come up a couple times, and again, with a lot of back row decks and a lot of rogue, just because this event was crazy, it was very good for what it was. 1 Topologic Bomber Dragon. I think I made this card like once or twice. It's nice with reincarnation because you have a trigger that you can just nuke the board at any time, so it's kind of cool. The damage also comes up a lot as well. 1 copy of Borosword Dragon, which was the MVP of the weekend. I probably summoned this like almost every game. It was just so crazy. And then 1 copy of Borolo Dragon. I didn't make this card too much, but against Thunder, sometimes they don't have an out to it, and it can just win you the game flat out. So that's it for the extra deck. I wouldn't have changed anything in there. That was actually perfect. And then moving on to the side deck. So starting off, 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Like I said, I did not main deck this, but I'm glad I side decked it because there was a lot of decks I played where Ash is really, really good, and I feel like you have to have it somewhere just because of random rogue or even against certain matchups. Ash is just like absolutely amazing. 2 copies of Ghost Ogre. I was pretty happy with this. We needed to make sure we had enough cards going second for combo decks to slow them down, even though Danger Thunder, it really still doesn't matter a lot of the time, but especially with stuff like, you know, the FTK and Luna Lights and, you know, Ed's Danger Orcus, Borosword.deck stuff like this is just really good to have in the side deck. And Ogre, we decided, was kind of like the best all-around hand trap after Ash. We thought about Valor and other stuff, but Ogre kind of did the job. Then we have 3 copies of Dino Wrestler Pankratops. This card is just insane, especially in Trickstar, because Trickstar's difficulty getting over big monsters. So not only do you get a big monster going second, but it also just pops cards in addition to that. So again, simplifying the game state and then taking over from there is what Trickstar does best. The amount of aggression with the deck, you're just going to completely snowball from there. 3 copies of Twin Twister. Again, just more spell and trap removal. I mean, this is basically for Striker, for Geist, anything like that. You just want to have Twin Twister. And again, Twin Twister pitch Reincarnation or pitch Destrudo can be really, really good. I did that a couple times this weekend as well. The 3rd copy of Evenly Matched for specific matchups where we need it and we know we're going second. And lastly, 3 copies of Forbidden Apocrypha. Do not play this card. This card was balls. I don't know why we were thinking this was a good idea for Thunder. We were thinking like you set it into their board of Colossus and stuff and then just flip it and they lose their board. But this card was just awful. Like, I wish this was like a Bell or Lancia. Like, we needed to stop them from like getting to this point. And even if you side this going first, they're probably just gonna pop it with like nightmares and stuff before you even get to the point to resolve it. So this card was just absolutely like, this was the worst part of the deck by far, but this was a last minute decision, to be fair. We didn't really get a whole lot of time to test it. So yeah, I definitely would change this out for Lancia, for Bell. Honestly, there's a plethora of different cards I'd play over this card again. So guys, that's going to go ahead and do it for the deck profile. Quickly to run down the matchups. Round 1 was Paleo. Round 2 was Prank Kid Thunder. Round 3 was Dino Thunder. Round 4 and Round 5 were Danger Thunder decks. Round 6 was Gem Knight FDK. Round 7 was Sekka Thunder, which, oh my god, that deck is crazy. And then Round 8 and Round 9 were both Draco. Round 10 was against Spiral, and Round 11 was Cyber Dragon. So I lost against 2 Danger Thunder decks, one of which got second place and one of which was in top 32, and then I lost to the Cyber Dragon player who managed to make top 8. So overall, I don't think I did too shabby, but still would have loved to get that top 32, but overall, I'm happy with my performance. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this deck profile. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member, because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.